What's going on, y'all? It's Jason Reviews here with the recap for UM3. Went down last night or yesterday, pretty much all yesterday. UM5 Round 3. Really good night. I think there's two stories that overall I want to talk about more. We're going to cover all the battles, some of them quicker than others, and focus on some of the more important battles of the night. But let's just get right into the recap. So firstly, some of the one-offs. Ryda versus Slade opened the night. Pretty okay battle. Slade, obviously is kind of the talent they're trying to showcase with this matchup. And I think Slade showed flashes. His second round, heavy trap talk, plug talk that we love from him. He won the second clear. Ryda did win the first clear, though. Just kind of punched him out. I don't think either of the rounds were blow me away, but they won clear in the battles that they were within. Slade had this rebuttal about Mike P saying all Ryda Ryda's not real. First thing he did is talk to the police. So that was cool, but it was 1-1 going into the third, and the third is just, somewhat of a debatable round. So the battle can really go either way. Some lines that I like from both of them. In Ryda's first, he was talking about turn your rib cage to a butterfly door. I thought that was pretty fire. I'll slap the drug dealer out you and make him work for me. That was pretty dope too. And as for Slade, he said 50 cal arm strong enough to dribble a medicine ball. I thought that was fire. I personally had Slade 2-1. I had Slade winning the second clear and edging the third, but I'm not mad at Ryda. It was just an okay opener. To follow that up was Steams versus Your Honor. This was not a good battle. It just wasn't, plainly. Steams came with a performance that was somewhat reminiscent of Ryda versus Steams. For those that have seen that battle, it's one of those things where it's a little bit stuttery, but overall, Steams' pacing is completely off. He just looks completely uncomfortable up on the stage. There is some good lines hidden with some really bad lines around it. I know people want to say, they weren't really showing Steams love. Yeah, there's a couple lines in there that were good. But if you're only giving us 30% good lines and 70% possibly OBC, possibly stuff we find corny, and your delivery's off, it just leads to a disastrous performance. And Your Honor just kind of mailed it in. He had first round that was pretty general trap talk, street talk, and then he choked. Steams rapped. Steams first went beginning to end with nothing. It was crickets, no reaction. And what really sucks about that is that when he just has to keep rapping through, you can see the pacing and the delivery just kind of getting worse and worse as it goes. So the first was terrible. We were honestly all down 0-1, but I guess you can give Steams the first. I gave Honor the second. Honor's second is actually the only decent round of the battle. He had a Sanford and Son haymaker. I'm going to make an example out of Steams, like drawn in the mirror. He had a what's the difference little concept, like what's the difference? He would say something, what's the difference? So that was fire. Steams the second, more of what his first was like. So, 1-1 going into the third, and then that third just kind of exists. I think Honor and him both Honor's clearly stumbling a lot more, I'd say, but both of them really didn't give a lot. It's not much to talk about here. You give it to either of them. This is just a battle we're better off forgetting. And then that leads us into the last of the one-offs. It's not the main event or the tournament. Nunn versus Red. And this whole first clip of three battles, Ryda Slade, Steams, Your Honor, and then Nunn Red. Nunn Red is the best of the three, but it's slightly above their level. We had an okay battle, we had a bad battle, and this is like whatever you would consider, maybe a decent battle. Starts on Nunn first. He has an angle about Red disrespecting JC, the whole my condolences flip. He says Smack got you losing to a white boy the day before Juneteenth. That got a haymaker in the building. Red, if something about knock him down, Red would be on the floor. Mahogany, I actually thought that was fire. I like that a lot. Pretty creative. And then Young Boy with a 38. Let's see if O blocked this. So he had a cool first, and Red came back, and there's a lot of critique for Red on stages. I've said it, many have said it, losing his voice, pacing. But Red's first was really fire. He had a rebuttal about, there was a New Testament line Nunn had. Red rebutted that. It was a pretty good rebuttal. He had a Thor low-key scheme, OBC, a little bit of OBC. I think there was some more layers to it. I think he added some other that's Norse mythology kind of elements to it. And that was okay. And then he had the Professor Red, where he broke down. He would say a triple or a quadruple entendres, the two he did, and he would break it down on the board, all the entendres. It actually worked well with the triple. He had an inadequate, he did a triple entendre with the word inadequate, I believe it was. And that was good. The second one was not a quadruple. I didn't even understand what he was doing, explaining with the board, but I do think it was creative. And then even before the end of his verse, he says, "Dead body still remains, but nonetheless." That was a fire line. So I had Red winning the first. Some people were saying clear. I think, kind of clear, but it wasn't like in a landslide round. Then the second on Nunn, he had a rebuttal to the adequate, he had a rebuttal to the New Testament, and he had 3 rebuttals to start off. Teacher's pet, apple on the desk, that was fire. And then he had a scheme about red eyes, red dyes. He kind of flipped the word around a million different ways. That was fire. And I really didn't like Red Second that much. Drake, honestly, never mind. I think he had another angle, kind of talk about the robbery of Sheed and Nunn, but I had it 1-1 going into the third. And then I thought Nunn even kind of clearly got the third. He had a transformer. He had a transformer flip, and then he said transformer may have a pussy the way ovaries. That was cool. Hit the last bitch with Mac, Ariana Grande, and then Red had some lines. He had a cocaine Weezy line making fun of Verb. He had a Nunn got served. And then he had a shot at Fonz at the end. But overall, it was just, like I said, just a decent battle. I had Nunn taking the second and the third. The second is probably the closer of the two, but I kind of got him. Like I said, I don't always use the word clear up here, but we'll say comfortable. I feel pretty comfortable in picking Nunn in the second and third. It is somewhat of a debatable battle, but overall, these first 3 to start the night were definitely low energy. I know there was heat in the building that, kind of slowed down the momentum of the crowd, but I think it was a mixture of the crowd being a little tired already and just not great performances from anyone and some really bad crowd control from some specific battlers here. But the second half of the card was, much better. And then we'll just go right into the semis. There's one semi I'd like to talk about more than the other. First, we're going to talk about JC versus Sheed Happens. This is a battle that was extremely close on the watch. There's people talking about robbery. I don't think there's any robbery or anything like that. I think it was a close battle. First round, Sheed comes out. It's hard to find the entrance. It's a bullet wound. It's hard to find the entrance. It's a stage curtain. Fire. He had this rhyme pocket doing JC flips. I liked it. If you go against JC, you're going to have to do some JC flips to fill in material. I thought it was somewhat of a creative take on it. He's giving his own sprinkle of his style to some flips we might have heard before. And then JC all over the place like a Spanish house. Thought that was fire. But JC comes back. He has he has this Megazord bar that was pretty crazy. Stripes, I got the stripes to take Sheed out. I'm too technical. Probably the best. I like that bar a lot. Best bar from his first round. And, I didn't write down every single line. I'm trying to pay attention to the battle somewhat. But JC had a lot of back-to-back bars, right in the middle there to slowly get himself. But for me, when he got to the Sheed out, too technical, that's what had me edging JC the first round. So I had JC 1-0 going into the second. I think it's common knowledge. Sheed got the second clear. In the judging, there's been complaints, Polo gave the second to JC, and that was wrong. We all know it was wrong, and it didn't make sense. But even if you flipped Polo's decision, let's say Polo gave the battle, gives the second to Sheed, and gives the battle to Sheed, right? JC still advances. He still won 2 judges and the fan vote. So I know people are really upset at Polo for that. Obviously, that was a fuck-up on his part as the judge to announce it that way. That's just clearly not right. But with that being said, JC still would have gotten through, guys. You know what I'm saying? It's not like this is the one judge that changed everything. He would have gotten through either way. But Sheed, I thought, won the second clear. He had this crazy rhyme pocket he kept for over like a minute long. Just the way he was like performing it out. I mean, Sheed is a special talent, extremely unorthodox. There's a reason he gets compared to Bill a lot. I do see he's very unique. He's his own. But the best way to describe the way he raps is kind of as confused as you might look at Bill, where you're like, this is fire, but it's like going in all these different directions. Pop, you got to go from pop lock to pop trunks like Vegeta. Fire. The chain punching. For JC, use J2's blade. Sweet Jesus. That was incredible. And JC had a pretty good round to come back to. Now he lying with his fabric gate. Fabric gates about him getting shot. That was cool. He had a centaur bar about half man. And then, right at the end, he even had a nice little clip. This a judge that your objection, this a judge that your lawyer can't object to, doing a flip on the objection bar. That Sheed versus Truffaut. So I had it 1-1 going into the third. Sheed obviously getting the second, JC edging the first. And then I had JC edging the third as well, as many of the judges did. There was a JC on drugs angle that Sheed took. I think that's really what took the momentum away from me. He was on it it wasn't that long, but in 230 rounds, you have to take advantage of all that time. And for 40 to 50 seconds, he sat on this JC doing drugs angle. It didn't work for Fonz. It didn't work for Sirius. It's still not an angle that works. You can even beat JC in general. I mean, some of these, you would say that Sirius beat him, but Sirius didn't even beat him because of the drug angle. I think it's a worn out angle. And JC didn't have too crazy of a third to come back. I thought it was some of their weaker rounds per, but he had a Nintendo Switch bar that was fire, and no limit, drop him every week. They pretended to give a fuck like Envy's wife, so definitely a fire battle back and forth. No shame to Sheed for losing. He had an amazing tournament run, but I edged JC 2-1. So with JC advancing on one side of the bracket, like I said, shout out again to Sheed happens. I want to see him get booked for a top-tier plate after this. I think that he just had a fantastic run. I think we see star potential. Sheed happens is going to be a top tier. If you didn't believe it before, I could say I definitely didn't believe it before, but I'm here now, and he's proven to be one of the best out of his class. So with that being said, JC is advancing to Gnome, and who would meet him on the other side? It's between Swamp and Fonz. I'm not... we could break this down. I'm just going to say right off bat, though, I did have Swamp Gentleman's 30. I am extremely impressed with Swamp. The 180 that he's one of the two people I think benefited. When I said there's two battles to talk about and two battlers to talk about from this card, there's Swamp. Now, I had Swamp. Fonz choked in the second, so we can get that out of the way real quick. Fonz had a decent second. Swamp's second was okay, but due to the choke, Swamp did get that round. He had a trouble in ATL bar, the duct tape wrappers, that was fire. You've been false claiming the land like Columbus, talk about Ohio, that was fire. And Fonz, obviously the choke hurt. He had some decent material, sniper rifle, eyes on Swamp. It's a gator lurking. So it's a little weird for me to jump there, but Swamp got the second, so you could give him that. And then I had Swamp taking the first. I think Fonz had a pretty decent first round, but very similar to the Rum Nitty battle, man. Swamp has this real talk and way of rapping that just seems to diffuse punching against them. I think another thing that plays into that is Rum Nitty did a bunch of page flips, all the page flips, and a bunch of Swamp name flips. So Fonz is going to have to come in here and try a little bit, different stuff, because if that didn't work with Rum Nitty, it's going to be really hard for you to make it work 2 weeks later. So he had a Brown scheme. He had a page not 404 error, page not found bar. That was fire. And he had a Kane Naval bar. But Swamp came in. He had a Only My Gun Gets Sentimental. That's a bar that's sort of like the retire bar from the Nitty battle. I didn't like it. A lot of people didn't. But after that, oh my God. Rum Nitty tried to flip page too fast and read me wrong. Fire. He had a Chris Brown scheme. He left with Chris Brown's house with no guidance. Now it's deuces. So I had Swamp winning the first two rounds, and they both had fire thirds. That is the debatable round of the battle to me. I'm cool if you give Fonz the third. He had a USC Trojan fans bar, hustle and flow. Why you whoop that trick? He had this concept about them selling cat. You're the same on the real life as you are on the internet. That whole slogan for Swamp, and that he said it's crazy because your family's going to have to sell catfish for the funeral, catfishing on the internet. That is an insane concept. Then he had a Brittany Griner bar after that. He had two bomb haymakers, what we're used to of a puncher of Fonz's caliber. They might have even been the best bars of the battle. But Swamp had a third round of street talk. That dope was I realized when my wrist was in the pot, that dope was everything it was cracked up to be. Eyes lit up on the stove, got me looking like Doctor Strange and shit. I beat Nitty, so down the road, you can get a bag for that shit. Real talk, substance. And Fonz did advance. It's going to be JC versus Fonz on Gnome. I'm going to have my Gnome predictions out later this week. And I will be in the building for Gnome. So, come time, the recap for that will be really fun for me to make. But to me, Swamp is knocking on that door of top tier. If you don't think he's like a low-level top tier or is broken through yet, a win over JC, we're going to talk about Swamp. We're talking champion of the year, up there for champion of the year, one of the contenders. just the 180 this man has made with his career is special. Shout out to Swamp. I'm actually rooting for him, going into Nome. For a guy that started so great, fell from grace and has come back. It's just great. So Carolina, stand up. And I had Swamp winning this battle, gentlemen's 30. And the last battle of the night to talk about, Snake Eyez versus Stumbles. Coming into this battle, I didn't think Stumbles would complete a round. I thought this would be a battle more about entertainment value than anything else. I'm not the biggest Snake fan myself. I have my own critiques of his style that I've given. But Stumbles, just hadn't even really given good performances for real up to this point. I've said it, borderline local talent. I've said a lot of things. Stumbles bodied Snake Eyez. Who would have predicted that? I know everybody's heard of it. Everybody's seen the viral moment in the third. So I just wanted to highlight some of, I had him winning the first clear. I think the second is closer. I think Snake Eyez had a little bit of a better second, but I didn't win the second clear, and I'm winning the third clear. I think Stumbles came in there, and that's about as much of a statement win as you could ask for. He had a Meek Mill Tony Story bar to start the first. Crazy. You see my homie in the wheelchair, I'll stomp you out for him. Talking about the fight, he said you can't comment on it. You only seen half of what happened, respectfully. What the fuck? Yo, he was kicking Snake Eyes' ass in the first round. Even Snake Eyes in his first got some struggle talk. He's got Mama went from C-sections to Section 8. He had an albacore bar. He had a little bit of stuff. Outperformed, outpaced, and Stumbles just wrote better. He wrote more haymakers. So the first was a landslide for Stumbles clear. Getting into the second, he had a thing making fun of Dot Mob. And then he had an angle he worked about, Stumbles or Snake's dad being abusive, and said, moral of the story is, if your mother was a better woman than mine, your eye wouldn't look like that. Get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here, Stumbles. That was crazy. I didn't expect that. I still don't even really know what to say that I just saw Stumbles have this amazing of a 3-round performance. It's like it's a parody. It's like we're being punked. But, hey, respect to him, man. My apologies for what I said about Stumbles. This man may have star potential. I didn't see it before, but if he can link together a couple more performances, it doesn't even have to be this good, but of this level, and cleans up the stumbling, he can be great. He can be on the rotation and possibly a star. That's what a performance like this will have you feeling like. He had a fake stumble. He's always stumbling. He had a fake stumble thing. That was crazy. I got an ARP. It's going to send him back where he came from, the RBE flip. He even had a Coco Melon bar. This is a Danny just had a crazy Coco Melon bar. Going to have the Danny versus Rum Nitty review out tomorrow, by the way. But that was crazy. Snake's second was better. Snake even had a fake choke. He had a land before time bar. Talk about his, he cried from one of his, he said his wife had a miscarriage. My condolences out there for that. And he said since his eyes fucked up, he only cried from one side. So that was pretty hard, but second was clear too, guys. I'm not no pity rounds. I really felt like he did. And then even in the third, it was just as bad as the first two. And at this point, Snake got to kind of complaining about some shit. Looked a little bit, visibly upset on stage. You live with your pops angle against Snake. Keep dropping Snake Eyes like it's trick dice. Fire. Held this bitch down more than Papoose. Fire. I told my homie, let it go. He misunderstood and somebody lost their life. And then he had the moment playing, the hit 'em up beat, talking about fuck Black Compass. It was bad, man. It was a dirty 30. Stumbles is all that momentum Snake's built up in the last 6 months. It might have really just gotten clipped that fast as sport moves at, lightning speed. And it's crazy how you could be on top of the world one day. You lose one underdog battle like this, and you lose to an underdog, and that's, we don't know where Snake's going to go from here, but incredible performance from Stumbles. I can't wait to see what Stumbles does next. Shocker of the night, the hit 'em up thing, possibly moment of the year, and just a great way to end the night. And with that being said, guys, that is going to be my full recap of the event. Like I said, I sped over some of the battles that I know, people are going to see for themselves. People have already heard opinions on. But Stumbles and Swamp, to me, are the two biggest victors of the night. I think Fonz is going to be okay after that loss. I think he's going to bounce back well. Same for Sheed. I think both of them have top tiers in their future. And for JC, it almost feels like it's normal. Not really fair to not praise him. If he wins this tournament, we are going to be talking about JC in a very, very high light than we already do. We'll be talking about the Surf and the Verb matchups. I had predicted him actually to get out of his side of the bracket. So that is one of the, in a tournament that I didn't have a lot of prediction picks right in my original bracket breakdown. I was right about JC getting to the end of his side of the bracket. But Swamp, what he's done, the 180, just a shock. His road was much tougher. Suge on the stage, even though I had him losing that battle, we walked away with the judge win. So beat Suge, then went and beat Rum Nitty. Battle one of the probably best wins that you could have in battle rap, and he won pretty clear. And then versus Fonz, he won. He won clear again. So this has been an incredible run. If he's able to knock off JC, we're talking about him maybe top 5. I already kind of have him top 5. We're talking maybe top 3 for champion of the year. Maybe even the number 1 spot. We'll see. And then as for Stumbles, like I said, I considered Stumbles a local level talent, and now I have to 180 that view. This was a grudge match, and when his back against the wall, even though I didn't even think he deserved to look like this was obviously booked out of some things that happened outside of the ring. But to take that opportunity and bring your best material, he had a little moments where it looked like he was going to choke or stumble, but he's a vet. He acted like a vet about it. Drank some water, thought it through, and never really fully choked any part of the battle. So, shout out Stumble, shout out Swamp. Those are 2 guys I'm definitely going to want to talk about more as we get into the second half of 2022. And in my opinion, it was the best round of the so far. Weird start to the night, but the last 3 battles were fantastic. But yeah, expect gnome content, obviously. Expect some reviews this week. And it's been J Small Reviews again, y'all. And I'm out of here. Peace.